Here we are together once again. So today, we're going to talk about interest groups. Sometimes called the special interests. In terms of politics, all interests are special. Not necessarily a nefarious group of special interests. It's just what they do is they are interested in a particular cause and trying to influence people on that cause. Now, the interest groups are associations of people with common views who work to influence what the government does. That's our goal: influence policy. They do this in a number of different ways. And there are interest groups on just about anything you can imagine, probably even things you haven't even heard of before. But with these interest groups, where there is a pro-interest group in favor of something, there's going to be one who's against something. And they can shift their views around a little bit, but generally they're for laws of political gravity for every, and the laws of politics for every interest, there's an equal and opposite interest. But these associations, people, these special interests, they often have common objectives for laws and policies. Certain things they organize into particular groups for. Those are for this group, organized into one group. Those are against, organized into another group. And those are interested in other things. They go into the third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 1,000th group. Actually, these include several organizations as People for the American Way, the American Civil Liberties Union, the Nature Conservancy, the Natural Resources Defense Council, the American Medical Association, all interest groups interested in particular kinds of legislation. They also include labor unions. Labor unions are an interest group. They're organizing, trying to pursue particular goals that are favorable to their members, that is, to the American worker, including right to organize, make sure certain rights in the workplace are protected by law, make sure that such issues as wages and benefit protections and protections for pensions are enacted and protected. They also include business groups such as the United States Chamber of Commerce. They are an interest group of small businesses who try to influence policy. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, small businessmen who also try to influence issues. Say wealthy aristocrats. They try to organize lobbyists to pursue particular goals that they're interested in. Civil rights groups such as the NAACP, that is an interest group. Make sure the civil rights are protected in this country. Reproductive rights, so on and so forth, and many, many others. Terrorist are criminal organizations, but so they aren't really considered an interest group. They are an illegal organization, but are there people who try to advocate on behalf of certain kinds of groups? Yes. For example, there are people saying that people on Capitol Hill right now saying, these Hamas guys aren't so bad. Are the people listening to them? No. They're getting shown the door as soon as they say that. There are organizations, yes, who are supporting very racist policies. Similarly, they're shown the door just the minute they walk in the room. Or they try to pursue goals parallel to these white supremacist organizations. But there are some interest groups that are more influential, more professional, that are taken seriously. And those, like these extremist organizations, that are not taken seriously. For example, there was a organization a few years ago protesting certain Wall Street practices called Occupy Wall Street. They could have been an interest group, they could have been influential, but it's basically a series of protests that's kind of fizzled out. Why? Because they had no leadership. You have to have somebody in charge and say, someone to make the decision, say, this is what we need to do. Otherwise, all your demonstrations are just performance art. You need to put pressure on politicians. I don't mean necessarily negative pressure, but just make yourself known and pursue your goals. Because political decisions aren't made in the streets in the United States. They are made in the corridors of government. And that's where interest groups, they want to make an impact, have to be. And Occupy Wall Street was never there. But interest groups play a powerful role in American civic life, especially congressional elections, local elections, and legislative elections. They're rooted in constitutional principles of free speech and free assembly. They vary in size. Usually they're larger ones, and usually the larger ones have more influence. Particularly ones with more money who are able to donate to political campaigns and send out information to their members where these particular people are voting on particular issues. Yeah. For example, the NRA, the National Rifle Association. Some people agree with them, some people don't, but they are technically an interest group. And they're influential because they have a lot of money, used to. But they have a powerful platform which a lot of people listen to. And they do have a list they send out to voters and their members alike, telling people how they're being rated on particular issues. Was that individual? Individual information. Influential. Oh yes, INFLUENTIAL. Influential. But yes, some are more influential than others, and that can be because of the cause they're supporting, their size, their leadership, the kind of money that our organization they have behind them. Popular, some are not, some are respected, some are not, some are taken seriously, some are not. Come in all shapes and sizes, but they all exist. Sometimes, yes, people can be members of more than one interest group. A membership to a couple of different organizations, and they go to work on these different issues. It's the idea of having what's called pluralistic democracy. is on the idea that America is made up of many different groups, each looking to serve the interests of particular groups. But these groups all prosper when they work together and particularly find common goals within these different goals of these groups. That is, although we're different, we find strength in unity. The idea of E pluribus unum, the motto of the United States. Of many, one. It's a Latin phrase. But though we are many different groups, we are in the end one. Once you have organization, you have movement. Effort is taken to organize through a set of actions and organize particular sets of actions and organize individuals. That's generally also called a movement. Membership varies. It could be simply identifying as a member of a group, race, religion, so forth, or specific organizations, as being a dues-paying member of an organization like the Sierra Club. But in general, the interest groups, there's a sense of connection to having until becoming part of a large group. It helps determine its actions. When groups cannot agree on their direction or goals, or infighting, the group's effectiveness breaks down or the group breaks apart. There have been a lot of organizations that have broken apart just over differences in leadership, differences in the policy goals, and so forth. The idea, though, is organization. Find people with similar goals, bring them together into an organization, and decide what to do from there. There's power in numbers. That's the idea behind democracy. Power in numbers. Because democracy in a republic, all this is based on the idea of cooperation, of consensus. Groups work together towards common goals. They define those goals. And along the way, you find friendly allies. For example, take the Civil Rights Movement, groups like the NAACP, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and others. Those were interest groups, but they were influential and successful not just because of the actions of civil rights leaders in the African American community, which was very important and inspiring, but it was so inspiring that it invited allies outside the African American community in to participate, particularly a lot of whites who recognized what Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the NAACP, were working for, and agreed with them, and added their voices to these groups, organizations, to help make change happen. But how do you influence people? How do you influence? Interest groups influence both politicians and influence public opinion. Politicians to public opinion. How do you do that? How do you influence politicians? Oh, by lobbying. That is going there and talking to them directly. Then I meet with them, talk to them, and try to make sure that when you do meet with these politicians, that you leave the door open for future meetings. That they're interested in you as a person, they're interested in what you have to say. And if they don't agree with you at that point, leave the door open. So let's continue to work, let's continue to have a dialogue.
I heard that lobbying.
Depends on how you do it. There are different kinds of lobbying. There's lobbyists who walk in, take a big wad of cash, put it on the desk, and say, my organization is interested in this particular bill getting passed. There might be a bunch of money there, there may not be. Or they write a big check to their campaign reelection fund. Yeah. Donation, quote unquote. Sometimes there's a lot of potential for a lot of crookedness to go on there, which is why paid lobbyists are always registered. So they know who this guy is, who they're working for. So there's always a paper trail. But there's the old-fashioned kind of lobbying. You go to your state legislature, you go to Congress, you try to meet a couple different congressmen, and then try to get them to convince to vote for a particular bill or vote against one. Fashion face-to-face contact. But it's very difficult to do that because how many of us can just stop work, take a vacation for a couple months, go to Congress and talk to all 435 congressmen and make sure they push through a particular bill? Not a lot of us have that kind of time or money, which is why organizations have paid lobbyists, so they can have time to build those relationships with different congressmen. Example, you may know it's possible many communities that you may know your congressman personally. See him at different community events, they know your name. They might actually like you. But that's just one vote, and you need, in House of Representatives, 218 votes to pass. You need to multiply that relationship by 217. So, the lobbyists. And some are good, some are not so good. And you're in Washington, you're in Little Rock, whatever state capital you're in, you get to know which one's which pretty fast. But these politicians, these lobbyists, they're all part of this group of the interest system. Lobbying, talking to politicians, trying to get them to vote a particular way. Now, lobbying, it's going to talking to your congressman, that's perfectly legal. Talking to any congressman, legislator, that's legal. But what you do in that conversation, what you promise, what changes hands, that could be illegal. But it's part of the process. If you want the process to work, you got to talk to your legislators, you got to let them know what you want. They don't read minds, they read checks for donors. They read editorial columns and things. They read memos from their colleagues and their party saying, we need to take this action. But sometimes they will read a very thoughtful letter from a constituent or a phone call from a constituent, sometimes several. Remember the election we just had, like I've said all semester, election is just the beginning of the process. And you got what you win the election, or you lose the election, whatever, but you got this new set of politicians in office, they got a particular agenda, and now you stay informed. Part two, continue to stay informed. And three, you let them know what you want. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. If they don't listen, a lot of times they get kicked out, especially if they're in a very tight district. But sometimes they will, and particularly on little issues. They don't have global earth-shattering importance. Sometimes they will listen to some things like that. They influence politicians, lobbying, and public opinion. And yes, interest groups, large ones, they will commission public opinion polls to show politicians what voters what voters across the nation and in their district think about a particular issue, and also help guide them as to how to direct their public opinion campaigns. Number two, who to influence public opinion. So how do you influence public opinion? You send out information, you send a message through the media. It's media, remember, media is plural. Means several different ways you influence people. Information to the public. You do that, one, through mail campaigns, TV, radio, newspaper ads, advertisements, and increasingly internet ads. Next, opinion pieces. Magazines and newspapers, online and in print. Includes editorials, letters to the editor, guest columns. Basically, different ways to get people's attention. Editorials, letters to the editor, basically state your case. Why should people think you a particular way? Why should they change their minds on it? Or news. TV, radio, internet. Newspapers, magazines. Sometimes you get a particular issue and suddenly you hit on the right issue at the right time and suddenly it's everywhere. And media outlets, they will run articles on particular issues. You want the nuclear waste dump cleared. You make a bunch of talk about it in the newspapers, talk to editors, and suddenly they're running stories about it. People starting to say, maybe we should get rid of this toxic waste dump. 5, interviews. Interviews on TV shows, radio programs. It's a lot of local radio stations have a local public interest program, basically, usually Sunday morning or something, or Saturday morning or something, where they're just talking about different issues, big local issues. Internet. This includes web pages and podcasts. Talking to leaders of particular organizations and movements about these particular issues. And of course, the old-fashioned newspaper and magazine. And all this information is slowly being absorbed into the public mind, slowly changing opinions, slowly making people aware of what's going on. Sometimes it hits just right, makes them mad, and they write a letter to the congressman and say, we got to do something. Or some humanitarian disaster or something, saying, hits people right in the heart, pulls the heartstrings and say, we got to do something now. The contact the congressman or the legislator. All these together are meant to build information and influence the public through information and education campaigns. And all these affect public opinion. Affects public perceptions and public opinions. So they've accomplished that. Politician starts paying attention and starts taking action. That's how it works. Now, sometimes it's an obvious slam dunk. Politician does the right thing. Sometimes somebody throws something ratchet in the works to gum everything up. Because the ultimate answer to the question again, why, when we have problems, why do these problems still stay the same? Because sometimes people have a vested interest in keeping these problems going. Why isn't the town nuclear toxic waste dump taken down? Because somebody has a lot of money involved in keeping that thing operating. Yeah, money. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's enough public opinion, public goodwill that can convince a politician to do the right thing. And sometimes, yes, there are politicians who want to do the right thing from the get-go. They just need to be informed about it. Every congressional district has about 700,000 people in it. They don't know every issue, every problem in every neighborhood. Things come up. They're dealing with all sorts of other problems. But if they're informed about it, they'll get up and do something about that the same day. Really good congressmen are known for their office staff. Legislators, same way. Is that you call them the problem and they can work on it real fast. Uncle Fred's having problems with his application for the VA hospital, or Aunt Sally is having problems getting her Social Security checks. Talk to their office staff, they get their information, and really good ones, they'll call you. They can call you back in a few hours, or the next day say, "Got it solved." And good staffs will do that. Good congressmen, good legislators will do that. Just tell them what's wrong, and they'll fix it. Got a problem with a local official or something, congressman knows it. Oh yeah, I know this guy. Yeah, I think we can do something about that. He makes phone calls, says, "Hey, Billy Bob, why don't we fix this thing right quick? Got some people upset about it. Think you can help me out?" "Oh, thanks. Best of the missus. Bye." And in a few hours, a couple of days, it's fixed. Sometimes there are good people who do that. See, the thing about politicians is we usually only hear about the stupid things they do. Only hear about the loudmouths, the liars, the crooks. But there are good elected officials doing the right thing every day. We just don't often hear about it. They're quiet, working behind the scenes, doing their job.
To make the good news.
Yeah, the ones that don't really make the news. But they're the ones that, yeah, they do their job. You see them everywhere when you're out in public. You see them at all these different community gatherings, community events, but you never see them on the news. That kind of thing.
The news runs on.
Yeah.
No need.
Yeah, that's like I said, The old idea, if it bleeds, it leads. Or how that one critic said, got the sizzle, but where's the steak? A lot of sizzle. But you can make the system work. So the unfortunate reality, what really makes the government go? Money. Is that cynical to say? But it does take money to organize and make these things happen sometimes, good or bad. But yes, mass media, interviews, documentaries, radio, TV, internet, newspaper, magazine quotes, mass media, social media, posts, links, ads, clickbait even. Like I say, you're looking up this one particular thing for your paper, next thing you know, you got all these ads all over your internet. You've hit the right algorithm, and they're throwing these ads right at you. The clickbait. Posts, links, ads. And a lot of times on Facebook, Twitter, whatever else, you'll see people saying, we got this problem, contact your congressman, let's do something about it. Or like our Human Rights Project. That is basically, we've got a problem, contact our congressman, see if we can do something about it. Direct mail. Another thing we haven't talked about here is the PAC, the Political Action Committee. The AC. Commonly just called a PAC. Now, PACs are designed around specific interest groups. In a lot of cases, the way they organize PACs since the Citizens United decision from the Supreme Court is basically their interest is electing a particular politician to office. But political action committees, they're set up to channel campaign money, particular candidates, and particular information campaigns. Political action committees, they raise money for issues and campaigns and support candidates who are friendly to a particular cause. Political action committees have to register with the Federal Elections Commission. Or if they're operating at the state level, they do have to register with their state ethics boards. Now, PAC has to have at least 50 contributors, and they have to make contributions to 5 federal candidates. No contributor can give more than $5,000 to a political action committee per year. $2,500 per particular candidate. But they can donate to as many PACs as they want. They can make multiple PACs on the same issue to dramatically increase their impact. Now, PACs aren't supposed to coordinate with campaigns, but sometimes they do. And there's the case of McCutcheon versus the Federal Elections Commission. That is, limits on contributions are deemed to be in violation of the First Amendment. Some kind of put a ratchet in the works of it. The idea that money is the same as speech. And that's been the problem in Citizens United versus FEC. That is, efforts to try to limit the impact of money in politics have been thwarted by the courts. The idea that someone should be able to write $1 million check to a candidate, basically buy a congressman. But the court said, yeah, you can do that. The donations, donating to a candidate, that is considered free speech. So that's been kind of problematic for a while. Which brings up another question. What are the limits? How do we define bribery? In this system, can bribery even be considered a crime if we can give unlimited money to politicians for a particular, try to get them to support a particular cause?
I don't see how people can fall into the bribery.
Yeah.
No one should be having to be charged with bribery, but there are people who still do it.
Yeah, they're unopposed in election. They're still raising millions of dollars. And yeah, it's not a bribe anymore. It's a donation.
Charged with bribery. To do this, it's
Yeah.
really easy not to do it.
It's really easy not to break the law, especially in this environment where basically politicians can get unlimited money. It's basically make sure the check is not made out to you directly. Make sure the cash does not go into your pocket directly, but somewhere else, your campaign fund. Yeah. And that's the thing that's generally kept this country going and facing corruption and issues like that is there are a lot of politicians who are not very smart. You have to understand there is politicians are a cross section of society. Some are smart, some aren't. Some are ethical, some aren't. So you gotta take a grain of salt. So now we're talking about corruption. Brings us to another public interest group. You have the Consumers Union, which publishes consumer reports. They do reviews of different products, see how good they are. I'd say that's an interest group. Also, a public education interest group. You got this one here, Transparency.org, Corruption Perceptions Index. They do. They hold the powerful corrupt to account by exposing the systems and networks that enable corruption. They advocate for policies and build coalitions to change the status quo. Our vision of a corruption-free world is not an end in itself, it is the fight for social and economic justice, human rights, peace, and security. Advocacy, I advocate for power to be held accountable, issues of greatest impact on people's lives, research projects, and so forth. An international anti-corruption conference. About the Corruption Perceptions Index. Like I said, the most honest country in the world is considered to be Denmark. CPI score mean. Score is calculated. Each country score is a combination of at least 3 data sources drawn from 13 different corruption surveys and assessments, collected by a variety of reputable institutions, including the World Bank and World Economic Forum. Corrupt Perceptions Index, leading measurement for public sector corruption worldwide. Score is the perceived level of public sector corruption on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 means highly corrupt and 100 means very clean. Rank is relative to other countries in the index. And so on and so forth here. But what kind of corruption does this measure? Bribery, diversion of public funds, it is embezzlement and so forth, misappropriation, using public office for private gain without facing consequences, ability of governments to contain corruption in the public sector, excessive red tape in the public sector, which may increase opportunities for corruption, nepotistic appointments in civil service, that is. Notice that in some small towns that people only get a job because their brother-in-law, because they're somebody's brother-in-law, that kind of thing. Ensuring public officials must disclose their finances, protection of people in court cases as whistleblower laws, state captured by vested narrow interests, and access to information on public affairs and government activities. So, Denmark's pretty consistent. Finland number 2, New Zealand number 3. Down in the last few years. United States, score 69 out of 100, ranked 24th. No change since 22. Canada, score 76. They've increased by +2 since the last 2 years. Venezuela, it ranks 177th out of 180. Yeah, they're not doing too well these days. Surprisingly, Libya has a slightly less corruption, but it ranking score of only 18 versus 13. South Sudan side with Venezuela. Turkmenistan, 170th. Afghanistan ranked 162. Australia's ranked 14th. Korea ranked 172. As officially, North Korea makes a big deal out of corruption. They do execute officials deemed corrupt, but they aren't really given a trial. Yeah, all right. The most corrupt country in the world is considered to be Somalia. Score of 11, ranked 180. They have dropped since 2022. Mexico, ranked 126, score of 31. As you can see, it's just kind of a problem everywhere. That's ranked score of 72, rank 19. Out of the middle, Russia ranks 141st, score of only 26. Ukraine, they're trying to improve, but it's kind of hard in the middle of a war. Ranked 104th. A lot of them stay about where they are, some dropping, some improving. But that is the Corrupt Perceptions Index, transparency.org. You see where it all stands. And even groups trying to fight corruption, yes, they are considered to be interest groups. But how campaigns are financed, how information can be public information can be disseminated, that is an issue of corruption. One thing here, the Citizens United decision, the McCutcheon decision, question are corporations people? And they're made up of people, but do they count as people? What is the balance between free bribery and speech? Essentially, the McCutcheon decision allowed a single donor give up to $700,000 to candidates and parties in an election cycle. No limits on what candidates can receive from political action committees. Basically, one guy can dump $1 billion into one political action committee, and that lion's share of that can go to one candidate. Basically, that one billionaire can own a candidate. They can buy the presidency if they wanted to. The PACs basically have unlimited spending on behalf of candidates or individual activities. A lot of it's spent on TV ads. But again, back to lobbying, the U.S. Federal, state, and local level. If a lobbyist is paid at the federal level, they do have to register with the Federal Elections Commission. Find them at fec.org. FEC.gov. And you see, lobbyists, interesting about them is they aren't just lobbying the lawmakers, aren't just letting guys casting votes on the floor. They're also lobbying the staff and the bureaucrats. Because sometimes the office manager for a congressman, he can make sure that the congressman or the legislator sees this information. He just sees the information. He just sit there and he talks to the guy for a while. He'll make sure the congressman gets this and may recommend a meeting with you, for the congressman to meet with you. Yes, sometimes a lot of these offices, they have their gatekeepers, and you got to work the gatekeepers. But the bureaucrats, some bureaucrats have a lot of leeway in how they enforce particular laws or how they interpret certain laws. So, yes, just interpret it, just lobbying a bureaucrat, the head of a particular agency, that can be very influential. Educating them about particular issues, saying we like this. You say you want to bulldoze this playground next week. Can we delay that for a few months? Something like that. I sometimes talk about the iron triangle in regards to interest groups and lobbying. The interest group representatives, legislative committees, and administrators. These three can have a critical impact on the lawmaking process. While legislators and congressmen, they can put a bill directly on the floor and vote on it immediately, they usually, like we've seen throughout the class, they usually go to a committee first. The committees investigate, they hold hearings. Your lobbyists, your interest group representatives, they speak at these meetings, making a case for or against. So they can help inform these legislative committees. And by talking to individual members of legislative committees, not just the lawmakers themselves, but their staffs, that can be influential. And of course, the administrators of various different agencies, the Iron Triangle. They're seen as extremely influential in determining the outcome of political decisions. It's called grassroots lobbying. Grassroots, that refers to just motivating ordinary people, volunteers, for a particular cause or against a particular cause or for a candidate or against them. So organizations encourage members to contact elected officials, talk to them directly. They do this all on a voluntary basis. There's given rise to something called astroturfing. Sometimes these grassroots explosions of support for a particular bill, sometimes that's not actually on the level. Sometimes you have a bunch of people spread a bunch of money down grassroots to make it look like a bunch of people are saying something spontaneously. But these aren't actually volunteers. They've been basically, somebody put a bunch of money together to start an organization that looks like it's grassroots. Try to disguise who's actually behind them and where the support's coming from. There are about 24,000 national interest groups, at least. Federal level. 24,000. 24,000 different interest groups known to exist in the United States. Maybe a lot more than that. Some kind of fly under the radar. Again, these are operating influence legislation at the federal level. There are about 100,000 at the state and local level. You got 50 states, means you have 50 different sets of interests, even on the same issue. And also for interest for particular cities. And yes, well, there are thousands of lobbyists. There actually are lobbyists for lobbyists. A lobby for lobbyists. And that is the Association of Government Relations Professionals. What does this organization do? It's a professional association of lobbyists. They meet every so often, talk shop, but they get this organization to lobby for legislation affecting lobbyists. The lobby for the lobbyists. Even lobbyists have lobbyists. Because in the end, you name the cause: economic, social, religious, ideological, single issue, public personal interests. Nation of 330 million people, you have 330 million opinions, and everybody wants something done in a particular way. But because of our system of government, free assembly, free speech, freedom to petition, all sorts of ways we can contact our local, state, federal officials, tell them what we need, tell them what our concerns are, and we can make things happen. And yes, believe it or not, sometimes it actually does work. All right, so we'll go ahead and stop there for today.